Ukraine retakes crucial territories in the south, so Russians had to retreat in order to avoid being surrounded. At the same time, a major bridge also in the south has been destroyed, and Ukrainians are making excellent progress next to Bakhmut. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And let's get straight to the point and talk about some ridiculous Russian propaganda. And so in this first picture, we can see an extremely patriotic office of a Russian person who has pretty much the same pictures of Putin along the wall. And I have no idea if this guy or a girl is expecting Vladimir Putin to visit this office, so that maybe he can have a promotion or something like this. But in reality, I think it will be pretty nerve-wracking to work in this toxic environment. So just please let me know in the comments if you would like to have an office like this. But speaking about some more ridiculous things about Putin, recently he met with some military correspondents, and he basically said one of the most genius phrases, that the goals of these special military operations that are kinda constantly changing depending on the situation, but in reality the goal of the special military operation remained the same. He then also mentioned that he acknowledges that the counteroffensive of Ukrainians has already started, but it is the West which is using Ukraine as a puppet to destabilize Russia. And Russia, the main goal of this operation, once again according to him, is to methodically demilitarize this country. Ukraine, I mean, not Russia. Putin then also referred to the statistics by the Ministry of Defense of Russia, and I guess you already are prepared that this is going to be a completely fake news. He said that Russia only lost 54 tanks, while Ukrainians lost like hundreds and thousands of them. And ultimately he concluded that Russia does not need to invoke a martial law, that Russia will not send conscripts to Ukraine, because in fact the sovereignty and the country itself of Ukraine should be respected, but not as long as it threatens Russia. That is why we have to destroy them, eliminate them, terminate them. And then pretty much, yes, whenever looks like one of the Russian soldiers was getting an award for the participation in this war, I mean special military operation, Putin demonstratively turned around with his back to Minister of Defense Shoigu, showing his superiority of this person. He was making these sounds like adjusting his jacket all the time and just in general behaving like a kid, which to be honest does not look like the behavior and the body language of a allegedly strong leader, but what do I know? If you also agree with me, and hopefully hundreds of thousands of us, can you please like this video and subscribe to my channel to see how many of us right here. You can also follow me on Instagram and see how I live outside of YouTube. The link is down below. Alright, and now just literally a couple of words about the Western support to Ukraine. Then we'll talk about the situation in the east and the progress of Ukrainians to the south of Bakhmut, and then we'll go to the south of Ukraine. We'll talk about incredible progress of Ukrainians liberating massive, crucial territories in this area, and also the destruction of a major bridge. And first of all, as you can see from this picture, this is a multiple launch rocket system RM-70 Vampire, which Ukrainians are using on their front lines, which has been provided by Czech Republic. Then we have the statement from the Raytheon Technologies Defense Corporation of America that Ukraine will receive 5 additional air defense systems Patriot in the near future. And just overall, Pentagon made the statement that all the equipment that Ukraine will lose during their counteroffensive, America will gladly replace it. And in addition to that, America also issues $325 million military support package to Ukraine, which will include ammunition to HIMARS, armored vehicles such as Bradleys and Strykers, and approximately 22 million rounds of ammunition. And speaking about the notorious HIMARS, right here is 13 minutes plus documentary of Ukrainian soldiers using this system, showing how they do it and pretty much showing it in combat activities. The full version will be available on my Patreon, the link is down below, and there is still 1 week of free access. And well, what about Russia or its allies, such as Belarus? Do they receive some military support? And well, pretty much yes and no. For example, what I mean, that according to the president of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, his country will receive nuclear weapons from Russia also very soon, according to him, and he said that God forbid I ever have to use this weapon. I don't even want them. But if there is aggression against Belarus, we will gladly, immediately use it. Looks like he was training or practicing how to do empty nuclear threats from some Russian authorities and propagandists, because this is exactly what he's doing right now. Alright, and now as promised, let's talk about the situation in the east of Ukraine and the significant progress to the south of Bakhmut, but first of all, let's make a stop in Krasnodar Krai, located on the territory of Russia, where recently an oil reservoir spontaneously got caught on fire. Next we go to Ukraine itself, and first of all, according to the report by the Institute for the Study of War, Russians attempted a limited offensive next to Kreminna, they failed, and then both countries they reported some offensive around Bakhmut, with Ukrainians being more successful. Next we make a quick stop in Luhansk, where recently locals reported some very loud noises. And speaking about Bakhmut itself, Ukrainians were able to reportedly advance approximately 250 meters closer around Berkhivka reservoir, and then just in general a total of 700 meters along Bakhmut flanks. And according to Serhiy Chirvatay, 66 Russian soldiers have been eliminated, 83 are injured, and 3 are captured as prisoners of war. We then even have this video from the outskirts of Bakhmut, which shows that Ukrainians are confidently advancing closer to the city. Unfortunately, YouTube will not allow me to show all of it, that is why the full version as always is on my Patreon, the link is down below. And as a result of all of this, as you can see from this map which shows us the changes in territorial control, Ukrainians were able to advance significantly closer to Klishchiivka. And just overall, in the last 24 hours alone, Ukrainians were able to destroy 3 command posts, 2 air defense systems, 1 concentration of Russian forces, and 3 artillery units. And as always, we do have some footage of Ukrainians using drones to individually eliminate some Russian soldiers, as you can see right here. Right, and now let's talk briefly about the situation in the south. I will update you on Kakhovka Dam situation, and then we'll talk about Ukrainians liberating crucial territories and a major bridge being destroyed. But first of all, as you can see right here, unfortunately recently there has been attack by Russians against Kryvyi Rog, against literally a civilian objects, civilian buildings inside the city, and also reportedly a warehouse with the fresh water, which was supposed to go to Kherson region, has also been unfortunately destroyed. And just overall, Ukrainians were able to intercept 11 out of 14 Russian missiles and only 1 Shahed drone out of 4. Next we go to Kherson itself, and as a result of Kakhovka Dam incident last week, the water levels inside this region are now down to 2.7 meters on average, and several hundred houses are no longer that flooded. But unfortunately, the Kakhovka water reservoir has lost approximately 72% of its water, and the consequences you can see right here on your screen. And one of the most dangerous parts of all this was whether Zaporozhye nuclear power plant located in Energodar will have enough water to cool down the reactors. And as you can see once again from these satellite images, which shows the comparison of water levels in this region, as of right now, according to the locals, the situation and the water amount is relatively enough. But, if you remember, as I was already mentioning the last week, Russians had extensive defense structures along the entire southern front line, which has been confirmed by many Western agencies, such as for example the British intelligence. And so, as a result of Kakhovka Dam incident, they literally flooded their first lines of defense. So all these constructions were completely meaningless. And obviously, this is a very good sign for Ukrainians first of all, because they are the ones who are preparing for the counteroffensive. Now they don't have these lines of defenses by Russians, and as you can see right here, a big convoy of Ukrainian tanks is awaiting its orders somewhere along southern front lines. And well, Russians probably understand this as well, that at this point defending Kherson region will be pointless. That is why, according to Anna Malyar, a lot of Russian forces from this region are now being relocated to the Zaporozhye and also to Donetsk regions. And for example, one of such convoys of Russian soldiers and their military vehicles has been spotted several kilometers to the south of Enerhodar, and as you can see from this video, Ukrainians successfully destroyed it. As we move a little bit to the east, we can see that Ukrainians were able to establish full control over Lapkove. And then, going even more to the east, we can see that Ukrainians were also able to liberate Livadne. At the same time, Russians reportedly started retreating from this place, closer to this small settlement of Rivnopil. And to the northeast of this city, Ukrainians were able to liberate Niskuchne, as you can see from this video. And well, Russians started to retreat to the south from this settlement as well, so that just Ukrainians will liberate the next city, Storozheve, the very next day. Ukrainians were also even able to liberate its neighboring settlement called Blagodatne, as you can see from this video. And then, going even more to the south, Ukrainians were able to liberate Makarivka. And just overall, this is how much territory Ukrainians were able to liberate in the Zaporozhye region during the last several days, and allegedly their advancement to the south closer to Berdyansk has been estimated to be almost the entire mile. And unfortunately, a very good and intense and successful counteroffensive, it does come at a cost to Ukrainians. That is why indeed they were able to lose some of their tanks and armored fighting vehicles, as you can see from this video. The full version is as always on my Patreon, but not all the tanks were abandoned on the front lines, most of them were brought back and repaired. But once again, these are just the military vehicles. What is more important is that Ukrainian soldiers are being extremely professional in this counteroffensive, and as you can see right here, they are trying to push to the south of Rivnopil, which is a relatively major city in this area, and if they are successful, they are risking to surround Russians who still remain in this settlement. And that is why, according to some reports from the front lines, both from Russian and Ukrainian sources, those Russians, at least some of them, are trying to retreat from Rivnopil already, just trying not to be encircled. But wait, there is more. If we go a little bit to the south, next to Melitopol, to this small city called Yakimivka, allegedly Ukrainian partisans destroyed a railway bridge, and this is a major, one of the biggest bridges that Russians were using to bring their military equipment and vehicles all the way from Crimea to Zaporozhye front lines. And so, as you can see, Russians, by destroying Kakhovka Dam, they only made it worse for themselves, literally washing away the first lines of defenses. Then obviously the morale and the preparedness and the experience of Russian soldiers is way lower than those of Ukrainians. Now they have limited military vehicles in the Zaporozhye front line to resist Ukrainian counteroffensive, and they can no longer bring as many new military vehicles because this railway bridge is obviously unusable. And I guess you already see where I'm trying to go, is that Ukrainians are only in the beginning of their massive liberating counteroffensive in the south. They will only accelerate in the near future, and the positions and the situation for Russians will only deteriorate even further. And if you don't want to miss Ukrainians liberating a big chunks of land in Zaporozhye very soon, can you please subscribe to my channel? It only takes one click. The best way to support my work is through my Patreon. You can also become my channel member or simply use a PayPal link. Everything can be found to the right and down below. Thank you so much for your attention, товарищи, and see you tomorrow.